I wanted to share with you my dream. So what if we can transform people's financial future from hoping for the best to knowing what to do? And the sad truth is that most people are completely financially illiterate. And this has a real problem, not just in the UK, but around the world. And those of you who know me will know that everything I do is connected around this why. And so most of you in this room will know me as founder of Reddington alongside Dawid that we set up 10 years ago. But there are a few other things that I do. So 10 years ago, Dawid and I left Merrill Lynch and we set up Reddington and we had a dream. Our dream then was it didn't have to be this way. Pension funds didn't have to be in trouble. Many of you will see sort of BHS and British Steel. And unfortunately, our pensions ecosystem is in real trouble. And now 10 years in, we've kind of rebooted and upgraded our purpose, and we've handed over to our new CEO and a management team. But our goal is to make 100 million people financially secure. So everything that we do at Reddington right now is really aligned behind how can we make this thing happen. By the way, we have no idea how we're going to do it. That's the beautiful thing about a dream. You can put it out there. What I can say is that last year, if we add up all the members of all of our clients, we did help about 1.25 million people. And last year, Philips UK was fully bought out. So all 26,000 members of the Philips UK pension scheme are home and dry. That's something that we're extremely proud of, and hopefully that's something we can deliver for our clients. But about 4 years ago, it became apparent to us that the final salary system was going to decline. And the sad truth is that most people are completely unengaged about pensions and saving and financial education. Back in 2012, so we set up Redstar in November 2012, financial education wasn't on the UK curriculum. In fact, it was only put on the UK curriculum 2 years ago. The UK is the only country in Europe that doesn't have financial education as part of its core financial stability. In the US, you have states that give financial education and states that don't. Those that do have higher savings ratios and lower debt problems, and those that don't have lower savings ratios and higher debt problems. And really for the last 4 years, as well as trying to sort of help pension funds and build Reddington, this is the thing that really resonates with me. So we set up Redstar, delivering financial education. We didn't know what we were doing. The great thing about being an entrepreneur is that you just get out and do it. We've done a hell of a lot of days, and there's some Redstar people in amongst the room. And here we are playing a game called Money Matters and teaching compound interest by using blocks and getting them to experience the idea of creating compound returns without having to explain any of it. And that's the magic of financial education. For those of you who know me, I kind of like to set myself big personal challenges. Up until this book, this was probably my biggest challenge. This was September 2012. And I got to abseil down the Shard, raised £25,000 for charity. Actually, the hardest thing was raising that money because the people I did it with were like Prince Andrew and Fionn Haig, and they all had a handful of people just give £5,000. Just Giving got in contact with me and said, I've never seen anyone do this before. I had about 700 people donate to me. Like, how on earth did you get 700 people to donate to do that? Now, unlike Dawid, I'm not very good at English. In fact, I got a C in English literature. So the idea of writing pale is much scarier to me than that. I know for some people that is probably frightening, but the idea of writing a book and being here today was a much bigger personal challenge. And so a few years later, blessed with the arrival of Tara. In fact, just seeing that photo, I'm gutted that she's not. I'm gutted that she's not here. And you can see she's actually reading my book in the corner. The challenge with being a parent is obviously you can't sort of get out and go on long bike rides. You can't go out and abseil down buildings. But what you do have is a lot of time when your daughter is sleeping. I thought, okay, what can I do? I'm reading lots of children's books. Dr. Seuss is my favorite. There's lots of nap time in the morning and lunchtime and in the afternoon. I can kill two birds with one stone, and really over the course of 2015 set about writing Save Your Acorns. And I wanted to share with this because a few of you have said, how did you write it? And those of you who've seen the book, the illustrations are awesome. I didn't do the illustrations, but this is a perfect example of how the economy is evolving. So I managed to find this lady online. I've never met her. She lives in Slovenia, and I ran an online RFP process for illustrators, as you do. And I had various people come back and give illustrations to my story, and I picked it, and I worked with her to sort of finesse the illustrations, but she just blew me away. The lady who built my website is an Australian lady living in Rio. When I went to print the books, I got quotes from the UK, from the US, and this is the book printers in Belgium. And even after Brexit, not now at 1.2, but back at 1.5, it was cheaper to print 5,000 books in Belgium and ship them over to a UK warehouse. I now have a warehouse in Manchester that syncs in with Amazon to distribute the books. And actually one of the issues was I put it on Amazon, but I couldn't get my warehouse to sync in. So these are all problems, and I'm trying to solve them in the evening or on weekends when people don't work. This is my sort of weekend and nighttime activity. But really, this is the big why. This is the big why, whether it's Reddington, whether it's Mallow Street, whether it's Redstar, whether it's Save Your Acorns. The reality is our pension system is in deep, deep trouble. There is a tsunami coming that's affecting both our final salary world, but also our future world. And I just asked this simple question. If you knew you would live longer, would you save more? I ask people that. I look at them and I say, if you knew you were going to live longer, would you save more? And invariably the answer is yes. And we also know we are living longer. Statistically, on average, we know we're all living longer. It's not a surprise to know that we're living longer. And yet none of us pause and ask ourselves that really simple question about if you knew you would live longer, would you save more? Now, the problem is, here's some research from Aviva. Pretty much every single week there's some research coming out, but this was a few months ago, but 4 in 10 over 50s expect to work until 70 or older due to insufficient pension savings and lingering debt. I mean, that lingering debt is really, really frightful. And the idea that you sort of get to the end of your career and you're still sort of financially insecure is we're only at the tip of the iceberg, and if we don't do something about it, my view is that this problem will compound over time. And so this quote from Alan Greenspan, I think, captures the problem. Almost all of the developed world is at the edge of a demographic abyss for which there is no precedent. He was younger when this photo was taken, but he knew he was going to live a long time, so he certainly saved his acorns. And so I couldn't get the chart for the UK, but 22%, almost 70 million people in the US are between 0 and 16. And this sort of generation Z. So we have the millennial generation that everyone talks about. What are we going to do about them? And I know most of you in the room probably have kids who are either in the Generation Z or early part of the millennials, and you're probably asking yourself, well, what are my children going to do about financing their future? So we asked a few young people what they thought.
No, I don't know.
So we asked them, did you know you needed to set aside 15% to save for retirement? We later asked them, how much are you saving? And the reality is most was 0. In fact, the savings ratio for 18 to 30-year-olds is -2%. So they're spending more money than they're earning between 18 and 30. This is going to have a serious, serious problem. The impact of debt on families is as bad as alcoholism or anything else. I've just come off the BBC Radio 4 Moneybot show with a clinical psychologist, and she was saying that children as young as 6 know when their families are having financial difficulty, and it spreads and it lingers and it lives in the home and it affects the well-being of young children. So addressing financial security is not just about financial well-being, it's also about personal well-being. And the problem is we have a culture of spending which is holding us back. Everywhere we go, on your tube, on your Facebook, on your TV, you've got advertising that's saying you're not good enough, you're not sexy enough, you're not fit enough, eat more, work out more, buy me more, just consume more, just consume forever and ever and ever, and you'll be happy. We all know it's an empty promise, and yet somehow we're all caught up in this huge sort of consumer world. And many of you who take time to reflect will know that actually this is not the key to happiness. And I'm reading a fantastic book called How Much Is Enough? In fact, I think the person in the room bought me that book. But it gives you real insight into what true happiness is about. And having more money to buy more things is not the key to happiness. And the reason why is we have this whole YOLO culture, you only live once. And the reality is you can have both. This is not about saving and scrimping and living not an enjoyable life. It's about balance. It's like everything in life, it's about balance. And unfortunately, for most of the world, we find ourselves out of kilter. So every year we run this awesome program called Classroom to the Boardroom. So we invite young 16 and 17-year-olds in their lower sixth to come in. We set them a problem at the end of term in July, which is how do you get young people to save? And they work on it for 2 days, come up with business plans. It's a bit like The Apprentice. They then come in and they have to sit in front of, you can see Mitesh there and you can see me on the side and Tara and Patrick O'Sullivan, and we're the apprentices judging their idea. But this is a quote that came out back in July. We have been neglected. Nobody told us about the need to save and invest. So when you sit down and have a conversation with these 16, 17-year-olds, like how are we 17? We're just about to go to university and then we're going to graduate and be 21. How on earth do we not know this? Well, guess what? Financial education was only put on the school syllabus 2 years ago. Only 45% of secondary schools actually deliver financial education. The problem is most of the teachers don't know how to do it. The teachers are just financially illiterate as the children. There's no content, there's no material, there's no way to integrate it into the syllabus. So it's no surprise that we find ourselves in this situation. So the problem is a lack of financial education across all generations. I'm hoping in a few years' time I'll have a photo of Tara here. My family's personal advisor is here, and you'll be pleased to know that Tara has a bank account, an ISA, and a pension. So she is on track to financial security. But a lot of this boils down to an awesome piece of research done by Walter Mischel called the Marshmallow Test. And if you haven't read this book, I'd highly recommend reading the first 40%. Like most books, it's quite hard to push through to the end, but the first 40% is excellent. Him and his team did a longitudinal study going back to the 60s and have tracked these people all the way through. And they found that the kids that were able to delay gratification, i.e. to avoid eating the marshmallow, later in life were more likely to be married and still married, were more likely to have less weight or be healthier, were more likely to be financially in control. And the point is, it's not like a habit I can save or not, I can delay gratification. They studied the kids that figured it out, and it's self-taught. They hacked themselves, and the kids would turn around and they'd sort of kick the table, or they'd sort of stare at it, or somehow they'd figure a way to overcome that urge to just grab the marshmallow and eat it. And we all know it. It might be alcohol, it might be snacks, it might be whatever. We all have our marshmallow, but sort of taking control of that is absolutely key to success in life, but specifically sort of financial control. So last year, November 2015, Metro issued this, the top 30 skills we wish we'd learnt at school. Number 1, how to budget. 2, the importance of insurance. 3, how loans work. 5, how to take out a pension. So 5 of the top 4 are directly related to financial education. How to budget is absolutely critical. People say, oh, well, why don't we educate? Why don't we defer? Let's shield our children from the burdens of money and all the rest. Let's protect them. And then when they're 18, we'll put them into university, we'll let them have credit cards, and we'll just let themselves blow up. Well, that's insane. Let the conversation start early. Let them fail early. Let them spend money on sweets. Let them go to Legoland and waste money, but in a controlled way, so that by the time that they're 18, they're not doing it on debt and doing it with thousands of pounds rather than tens of pounds. But ask yourself, are you teaching your children how to budget? If you aren't, who is? Is it your school? Is it the scout group? Is it the Girl Guides? But that was the number 1 skill people wish they'd learned at school. The sad truth is, no matter how talented you are, no matter how smart you are, people don't understand this. So this is Rachel Riley. She's 30. She's an Oxford maths graduate. She replaced Carol Vorderman. You might think she's a pretty smart lady. In fact, she is an extremely smart, talented lady. I don't have a pension, but I'm planning to set one up this year. I definitely think it's important for me to save for a pension. So she's working for the BBC, extremely talented young woman, and yet at 30, she hasn't even started the journey. The difference between starting at 21 and 30, even with a little bit of money, is profound when you start to multiply it forward to your 60s. So a lot of people say, look, Rob, you're not going to turn up and spout this nonsense about saving 15%. You're completely out of touch with reality. People cannot afford to save. You don't understand. Rent is high. People don't get paid enough. That's just not true. You can sit down pretty much with everyone. Do you really need Netflix, Amazon Prime, Spotify, your mobile phone contract, or whatever rate it is? So most people have too much. It's really easy to take stuff out. But this stat is frightening. Basically, bog-off deals, buy one, get one free offers, the kind of offers where you go in to buy a 2-litre bottle of Coke and walk out with 6 litres of Coke because it was buy one, get one free, means that we're spending £1,300 more per year. Now, for a lot of people in this room, that's not a problem, but if you're earning £25,000, £30,000, £1,300 as a percentage of your net income is high. For those of you who understand tax, who understand compound interest, £1,300, 25%, compounded at 5% over 10, 20 years is a serious amount of money that can literally transform the financial future of most people. The sad truth is that most people throw away 30 to 40% of the food in their fridge. So when people say, I cannot afford to save, it frankly isn't true. My mum and dad who were there, we grew up and my mum saved 100% of her salary. She'd never spent her penny. We grew up living off just my dad's salary. There is an ability to do it and to save and to set money aside and to invest and be financially in control. So I won't put you on the spot. Actually, I will. Who knows what the best deal is here? It's a trick question.
How much milk do you need?
Exactly. So Linda said, how much milk do you need? That's the problem, right? It's not necessarily how much is the cheapest per pint, but how much do you actually need to consume? It might be that the 4 pints of milk for £1.40 is probably the right amount of milk for you. A shoe store did an experiment. So the problem is that most people, maths is a very abstract subject. I've just put our daughter into Montessori, which is an amazing way of teaching and learning. Maths is very abstract, and some people get it and understand it, and some people don't. So I'll share this question. This store, one in Westfield to the west and one in Westfield to the east. Shoes, 40% off shoes, or 3 for the price of 2. Which store did better and why?
3 for the price of 2.
Yeah.
Because no one understands percentages.
Yeah, 3 for the price of 2, sold twice as many shoes as the 40% off. People think 3 for the price of 2 is 50% off. They buy 3 pairs of shoes when they only wanted 1 pair of shoes. They could have gone the other direction and got 1 pair of shoes for 40% off. The problem is, I mean, a lot of people in our industry and people in this industry, yeah, but surely people get out a spreadsheet. I'm an actuary. Surely everyone's the same as me. No. I promise you, 99% of people are not like us in our industry. People really struggle with these basic concepts. And by the way, the marketers, the modern day madmen, know and understand this. They're paid millions, if not billions of dollars to get into our heads and make us spend money and not save money. So this is my vision of the future. So it's actually pretty serious. I think there's at least a 30% chance that this dystopian future exists. Contribution rates in the UK are less than 8%. And yet the cost of accrual for a final salary pension fund is 80 to 100%. There are people who work in your business who are having a pension benefit that's worth 80 to 100% of their payroll, and you maybe only be getting 5 or 8%. We know that you need to be setting aside 15%. Everyone in this room knows this. The government knows this. Your employer knows it. The CEO knows it. The CFO knows it. But what are you doing about it? Do we really want our children to grow up into a world that looks like this? There's a reason why people write these books, The Hunger Games and all the rest, because they're painting a picture of what could go wrong if we don't grasp the nettle and do something about it. And this is the reason I wrote the children's book, because if we go all the way back, actually we find 21-year-olds don't know what they're doing. So let's go to 18-year-olds, they don't know what they're doing. We set up Redstar and started with 15-year-olds. And then someone said, why don't you do primary school? So we went to 11-year-olds and found the 11-year-olds were just as good as the 15-year-olds. So we went to 10-year-olds and the 10-year-olds were just as good as the 15-year-olds. And then you just keep going all the way back. And in the last 4 years, discovered that, well, you'll see in a moment, that money-saving habits are formed really early on. So to me, what does success look like? Well, a nation of engaged savers and investors who are confident and in control of their financial future. And the problem is that people don't know what to do, don't know how to go there. But I strongly believe that every single one of us can have the basic skills of saving and investing and being in control of their financial future. But the sad truth is most people are consumers of apples, not owners of apples. So all of us in this room are very lucky. We've probably got an Apple or a Samsung, but we also own Apple and Samsung shares, and we benefit from that. But most people don't, and then you're the wrong side of that equation, but we can do something about it. Every single one of us can benefit from the simple wisdoms of people like Warren Buffett. So on that note, this is one of my favorite quotes. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I will learn. It's kind of one of the quotes that drives everything that we do at Redstar. And engagement and education is absolutely key. So the World Economic Forum put out the 16 core skills that it believes people need to survive in the 21st century. And you'll see at number 5, in foundational literacies, World Economic Forum is financial literacy. And yet only 45% of UK secondary schools have financial education. None of our primary schools. That's exactly why we went out with Redstar and started to teach people about how to budget, what is money, what makes good money. Most children think money comes out the wall. They don't even know where it comes from. It's really, really sad. So this was the point I wanted to say. Money habits are formed by the age of 7. And so that's really important. We're not going in and teaching kids about APR and compound interest. We might explain to them the power and consequence of compound interest, or the consequence of getting into debt. But it is all about habit formation. It's all about being aware enough to know that when I go to work, I can ask the right questions. When my employer comes to me and says, do you want to join a pension? I actually go, actually, this is important. I want to do something about it. And so, to quote Walter Mischel, if you can deal with hot emotions, really he's talking about the sort of chimp brain or the sort of thinking fast, thinking slow brain, then you can study for the SAT, that's like A-levels, instead of watching television, and you can save more money for retirement. It's not just about marshmallows, and that's the point. It's really about habits and understanding them. And unless you as a parent, unless our schools are having that conversation, surely we can expect our children, those 70 million people in the US, 10 to 12 million people in the UK, to have no clue about what to do in the future. So Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. And so I thought, okay, if I want to get to a point where everyone can benefit from investing, what's the core problem? Well, most people cannot invest, i.e. make money work for them, unless I know how to save. So how do we get people saving? Well, the core problem of saving is people don't know how to budget. So how can we get people to budget? We know these things are formed by the age of 7. So I said, you know what? Let's go right the way back to the beginning, and let's start by writing a children's book. I've gone on Amazon. There are less than 10 books in the entire world that vaguely even have some kind of financial education theme to it. And yet most of us have children's books that have really good themes in them. So why can't we have books that have a simple message? It's actually written for 4 to 6-year-olds, but it's actually a secret device. It's actually written for the parents of 4 to 6-year-olds. And you'd be amazed how many text messages I've had from people saying I'm such a monkey, or I wish I could be more bear or more monkey. So yes, as you can see here, the monkeys are wasting their bananas. and the bears are saving their berries. And here the bears are saving the monkeys by, some might say, bailing them out. There may be some moral hazard in this book, but I won't explore that too much. But the squirrels, they're very wise. They save their acorns and they leave them for a long time, and eventually they have an acorn tree with lots of acorns. And I wanted to share you, I rewrote one of my favorite proverbs. Some of you might recognize it. But a society grows great when squirrels plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in. And I think really that's the so what of this book. So just a few closing remarks. This is from the cousin of a friend of my wife's. I got this on Friday. I can't tell you how cool it is when you get something like this. So thank you for the awesome book. Dear Robert, thank you for the book. I learned that when acorns are left alone, they grow into trees. The trees make even more acorns. I will not spend all my money. I will save it and also share it. From Syra. Doesn't get any better. And the truth is, the adults like it as well. This becomes addicted, checking your Amazon score. And there is a request in all of this, so giving you free drinks, inviting you all here. It is not costless. So I made a pledge. For every book I sell on Amazon, I'm going to give one for free. I've already donated probably 200 or 300 books. I've sent a few books out to Africa with New Ways and to local schools and Girl Guides and Scout groups. So as I say, the goal is to get it out to people. And on the 31st of October, does anyone know what happens on the 31st of October?
Halloween.
It is also World Saving Day, of course. And the cartoon version will be on YouTube and available globally to watch anywhere in the world, whenever you want. But yeah, please go on Amazon. I will make this one request. Those of you who've got friends or have written a book or know anything about writing books, Amazon is like an algorithm. And in fact, even if you want to sell your book in Waterstones or your local bookstore, they check Amazon. I walked into Waterstones in Richmond. The first thing they did is scan my book and checked out my Amazon score. So you can help me because it's a very simple algorithm and it works on daily and weekly moving averages. And if everyone in this room just buys one copy of the book, you get a free copy tonight. I'm happy to give you more. But if you could just go online and buy one copy and give it to someone, I'd be extremely grateful. If you could do one other thing and leave me a review, that would be even better. But if you could please buy a book, that would be great. Thank you very much. I'll be signing copies if people want them. We've got drinks. Please stick around. Please chat and meet other people. There's a really interesting cross-network of people in this room. If anyone has any questions, happy to take a few questions. Thank you.